meetings.
Hello, everybody. This is Commissioner Urban. I apologize for the very late start of this meeting. It is all on me and very rude to the people who work here, so I apologize big time for being late. But let's go ahead and get started. We can call this meeting to order at 6:50 p.m. Can you, Bethany, can you please assist us in our roll call?
Commissioner Reynolds,
Here.
Chair Irvine. Commissioner Garrett,
Present.
Commissioner Kendall.
Okay.
And Commissioner Etter is absent. Chair, you have a quorum.
I'll turn it up.
I'm sorry.
Oh. I thought maybe your microphone was not on.
Oh, no, I'm sorry if you could not hear what we just did a roll call. So nothing important yet, but we do have a quorum, which is great, so we can keep moving forward. The first item on our consent agenda is to approve the March 19th Planning Commission meeting minutes. Has everyone had a chance to review those? Go ahead and make a motion or.
I make a motion to approve the hearing meetings.
From the March 19th meeting, is that correct?
Let me see. Is that what it means?
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Approve the meetings March 19th, 2025.
Wonderful. Do I have a second?
I'm second.
All right, first and second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, motion carries. On to the next item. We have a public hearing. I get to read a fun statement here, so I try to read this as fast as possible. This is all legal jargon. This is the time and place set for hearing on planning file number ZC 25-2. The hearing is now called to order. The hearing will proceed as follows. Staff will present the staff report. Applicant will present its application and supporting evidence. Any interested persons will then be provided the opportunity to present testimony or evidence in support, evidence that is neutral, or evidence that is in opposition. Applicant, as a party bearing the burden of proof, will then be afforded an opportunity to present rebuttal testimony. Staff will provide closing comments. Any party may request that the written record remain open to respond to testimony presented at the hearing. At the conclusion of this hearing, the planning commissioner may close the public hearing close the public hearing and deliberate towards a decision, close the public hearing and defer deliberations towards a decision at a date and time certain, or continue the public hearing at a date and time certain. All testimony, argument, and evidence must be directed to the applicable criteria or any other approval criteria you believe to be applicable. Matters unrelated to the application are not pertinent to the Planning Commission's decision in these proceedings. Failure on the part of any person to raise an issue that is not specific enough to afford the Planning Commission and parties to this proceeding an opportunity to respond to this issue precludes appeal to the City Council and Land Use Board of Appeals on the issue. Failure of the applicant to raise constitutional or other issues relating to conditions of approval with sufficient relevance to allow the local government or its designee to respond to the issue precludes an action for damages in circuit court. Commissioners must disclose any ex parte contacts, including site visits, biases, or conflicts of interest. Does any commissioner have anything to disclose? And if so, please state the nature and whether you intend to participate in these proceedings. Commissioner Reynolds, do you have any?
No.
Commissioner Urban, I do not have any. Commissioner Garrett?
This is my neighborhood, so I can make an unbiased judgment call, but I do have present here to cite this proposed development.
Nick, you want to comment on that?
Yeah, I did talk with Commissioner Garrett before the meeting. And counseled him that if he can, or he feels that he can remain unbiased, objective on the decision, that he may participate, and I recommended that he disclose that as he just did. And so at this point, he can remain participate in the hearing unless one of the fellow planning commission or member of the public object to his assertion. At that time, we will have a different conversation if needed.
Commissioner Kendall?
I have no confidence.
Okay, and just to be clear, this type of disclosure relates to more if we have had contact outside of this meeting with others who make decisions and or if we have a financial stake in the decision related to this.
Yes, I would also say that under the quasi judicial hearings, the ability to remain to be unbiased is important as well. So, for example, if I lived in a neighborhood and there was a land use proposal on my way to work that I drove by, and as a planning commissioner, you know, I know the site, but my ability to look at the criteria, weigh the evidence, and remain objective on it to the point where maybe, I'll remain objective. That is really the spirit of what we're trying to achieve here. And so really it is the commissioner's individual determination as well as the fellow commissioners and the public's ability to sort that out.
Okay, do any commissioners see conflict with Eric remaining? Okay, and this is also where we get to ask the audience, does any party present here or online challenge any member of this hearings, the people here based on ex parte context biases or conflicts? Okay, seeing no objections, we will move forward. Just to be clear, I spoke very fast, but the order of this meeting is that staff present information and then we have the applicant come up and present information. At any time, the commissioners can ask questions related to what the information that is being presented. After that initial information process is gone through, then we will open up to public testimony. In that public session, we will order the testimony in order of in opposition and neutral and positive support. If you are interested in making a comment, although we ask is that you come forward to the dais and state your name and your address for the record. And a big part of it is to just try to remain within the bounds of what information has been presented. So if information has not been presented, you can request that whatever information you'd like to request and be included in the meeting. But it's really important that we stay close to the criteria of the meeting, and that means that we stay within the information that is being presented. Okay, so we will move forward with the staff report.
Thank you, Chair Irvine. I'm going to pinch hit tonight. This proposal before you is a comprehensive plan and zoning map change. So we're in effect, we're changing the zoning of the property, or in simplistic terms, changing the color on the map, which represents the zoning and therefore the permitted uses and related development standards in the zone. Currently, the property is zoned R1. The applicant has requested to rezone that to R2. The subject property is identified as tax lot 2203 on the assessor's map 1113 1CA, Charlie Adam A. Part of the criteria with this proposal is important. Oftentimes we're not referencing administrative rule and state statute, but in this case we are, because when we change our comprehensive plan, whether it be the written document or the map that implements the comprehensive plan, we need to be consistent with the applicable state laws. And so in this case, Oregon Administrative Rule 660-12, subsection 60, also known in the planning sphere that many of you probably don't exist, is known as the transportation planning rule. And this is a rule that has been long on the books of the state, and make sure that when we change a land use regulation or zoning of a property, that the transportation system can support that. So there's an analysis associated with that. We also are looking at Oregon Revised Statute 197A, which also has needed housing statutes. So in Oregon, we have specific statutes that guide cities on how they're supposed to make land use decisions, including zone changes for needed housing. Needed housing is a term of law as well. And needed housing goes back to a city's comprehensive plan, in particular our Goal 10 housing component of that plan. And in the Goal 10 component of the plan, we have our housing capacity analysis. That accounts for our population, demographics, growth of the population, as well as our land supply, our 20-year land supply within our urban growth boundary for residential, and determines how much housing based on existing and available land we need in the future. And that is what we define as needed housing. We just updated the housing capacity in 2022, and probably no surprise to many, all housing of all income levels is needed, and all types are needed. So what that means is the requirements of 197A do apply related to needed housing. And so it's something that the city needs to support needed housing. And part of your support is making land use decision that enables these changes. As well as our comprehensive plan, staff's identified goals 1, 2, 6, 10, 11, 12, and 14. I do not expect you to understand that, other than we need to make sure that we are looking at our citizen involvement, land use planning, land area resources, housing, infrastructure, transportation planning, and urbanization. I might have got one of those wrong. Nonetheless, we have in the staff report finance compliance with the previously identified administrative rules, the state statute, and the comprehensive plan, as well as the few criteria in our development code. If I was in your shoes, I would want to know a couple things. The first would be, okay, we are holding a quasi-judicial hearing this evening. What notices have been provided? We have provided notice to all property owners within 250 feet of this hearing, at least 21 days in advance of this hearing. We've also published notice in the newspaper in the same manner. So we published a notice 21 days in advance of the hearing tonight. We've provided notice to the Oregon Department of Land Conservation and Development, who oversees land use planning for cities and counties. And we've also provided notice to participating agencies, public agencies. So Public Works Department, who oversees our public infrastructure, as well as the Oregon Department of Transportation, and others as well. So we've provided the proper notices. We did receive one public comment, received a letter from the Fair Housing Commission of Oregon, Fair Housing Council of Oregon. And this is actually a first. We'll enter it into the record. This is the August 1st, 2025 letter from John Miller, Executive Director. And they are in support of this proposal, and even go on to say, quote, this will be used as a good example for other jurisdictions. They have an interest in fair housing and affordable housing across the state. So with that said, I'll go into a little bit more specifics to the property. I identified the technical aspects of how we identify where it's at, really on the screen. This property is on Oak Street between 12th and 16th. It's on the north side of the street, kind of a flag shaped property there. The applicant is seeking this zone change because they are proposing a 72-unit multifamily residential complex. So they have filed both of those applications, the zone change that you're considering this evening, and then the site plan for the authorization of the, you know, for the site improvements for the 72 units of housing. That is not under your purview this evening, okay? You're just looking at the zone change. So from a city perspective, again, we have findings that we have developed with a factual basis. Arriving to the conclusion with to recommend the planning commission to approve the zone change. We did solicit comments from Public Works and ODOT. Both really had not much to say. And I think one of the things that I'll just point out is the city fully acknowledges Oak Street is one of our main, what's a major collector. We understand as identified in current transportation system plan that the Oak and Highway 97 intersection is not doing so well. And there's nothing really the city and ODOT can do except for when we reevaluate the whole North White intersection. So there is nothing that from a transportation planning perspective, the changing of the zone of this property, which would allow a bit more housing on it than otherwise, is not going to affect that intersection. And even if they were, there's nothing they could do. So going back to what I referenced is the transportation planning rule, that statute is making sure that our land use plan, our zoning is consistent with our transportation system plan. And generally speaking, we conclude that they are. Remember that under the Fifth Amendment, the city's local government only has certain powers, those police powers, and they are limited. And so when we look at development, we need to make sure that whatever requirements that we impose upon a developer, that they be roughly proportional to their impact. And a couple former notable cases, I won't go into that, but I'll tell you that the courts are very much narrowing or limiting, much more limiting local government's ability to require developers to make improvements unless it is exactly related to their impact. In this case, our public works director and ODOT have both said no comment. There's no improvements to that intersection. No other improvements to the infrastructure other than the small portion adjacent to Oak Street there. We are going to have them improve that to city standard. So there'll be a street, a driveway there. We'll go into the development, and of course the sidewalks and all the other stuff are standard. And for those that are in the neighborhood, we do have a few gaps in the sidewalk infrastructure on the north side. This is one of those properties. And so that'll be a nice infill there as well. As I have observed, our residents actually walking in the street where there isn't a sidewalk in that area. So with that, might you have any questions for me before you proceed through the public hearing?
Will you have an opportunity to just talk briefly about the difference between the R1 and R2 as far as density goes specifically?
Yes,
Okay.
great question. So in the R1 zone, the current code only allows 24 units of multifamily or apartments. And those 24 units can only, you can't have like one building with 24, they're gonna be broken up into buildings of 4 or less units per building. And from a policy perspective, in 2022, when we set that standard in place through the Middle Housing Code amendments, we wanted to allow some multifamily in the R1 zone because from an acreage perspective, most of the land in the city is zoned R1. And we don't have very much R2 land, which is the zone that allows all types of housing in it. Okay, and so the requested zone change allows them to more effectively and efficiently use their land to build more than 24 units on it. The R2 zone, you can build as many units as you want, but you can't exceed the density maximum, which is 24 units per acre. So the site plan decision that staff is reviewing our associate planner, Bethany Kendall, she's reviewed that and we've determined that the proposal is consistent with the density standard. That component's not for purview, but I related to your question.
How many acres is the subject property?
3.5.
3.5.
And R1 allows 24 per acre?
No.
No,
No matter the size of the property.
no matter the size. But if it was a 1 acre property, it's under R1, you could allow.
Let me say it a little bit differently, Commissioner. If it was a 1 acre property, you could do 24 units of apartments.
1 acre property.
If it was a 28 acre parcel zone, in R1, you could only do 21.
24 units, yeah, I understand that, so. But that's in the R1 zone.
Correct.
Regardless, so.
How many is in R2? How many units are allowed in R2?
Well, we don't put a number of unit maximum. What we do is we put a density standard in place. And so that is the number of dwelling units per acre, that's your density. It's 24. Yes, 24 units
Per acre.
per acre.
So I have a question about the R2 that the current city currently has. Where are those parcels and why would those parcels not be used first before changing what the city's already decided is R1?
Well, I don't know that I could articulate that. That's why we're zoning that, so I'm happy to show that maybe after the hearing.
You said it's limited.
Yes, it's,
R2.
in terms of the number of acres, it's very much limited. And I suspect that it is limited because, in the kind of mid to late 90s, there was a lot of important, state laws passed about rezoning land. And, it's a little more difficult. And if the city wanted to maybe rezone land or upzone it in this case, just as this proposal, that's often fine. Sometimes people don't like that. Think of a situation where you had land that was zoned R1 and now it's R2, and then now that opened up the opportunity for higher density development. There oftentimes is people concerned about the density developed, so that creates problems. And so the city has approached the utilization of a residential land in a more efficient manner, candidly trying to get more density in the R1 zone by, instead of changing the color on the map, we're going in and saying, okay, this zone has these permitted uses, so let's one, add apartments to that, and then two, let's set a density standard on that, so we have some assurance of compatibility within that zone of other development. So single family, duplexes, triplexes, let's not add a use that would be dramatically different in density than what we already see today. So over time, the city one hasn't really seen a priority for it. If you look at our growth statistics, we don't grow that much. So there's not necessarily a need or a compelling need, except for on an individual basis. And those individual basis, you make that decision based on the criteria before you this evening, which is the state law and your policies and your comprehensive plan, that basically say you need to really support needed housing. And in this case, this proposal is consistent with it. I hope that answers your question in a very general way, but I'd love to spend an hour or two to talk a lot more about that.
Very thorough, thank you.
Yeah.
So what's to stop this guy from just dividing this lot into 3 R1 lots and putting 24 units on each R1?
Well, he would like more than 4 units per building.
Yeah,
And so when you look at all the other development standards that apply, it doesn't, he can't achieve the number of units, believe it or not. That's been well modeled.
And that's because there's other restrictions within the R1
Yes,
rule,
yeah,
other than.
Yeah.
Okay. Think we're good?
Who's my staff report?
Okay, great. So after the staff report, we get to hear applicant testimony. Is someone here representing the applicant? Great, so if you can give, make it on, should you say your name and your address, and then go on.
Need to push?
Oh,
Yep.
it
There you
should
go.
be on.
Good to go?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm Dirk Vanderbilt. We own the property on Oak Street. And right now, as Nick said, we're going for the rezone first and foremost, and then you'll see our site plan application. After that, you'll see the 72 unit project that we're working to get approved. It's a great project, 60% affordable, 60% average income in the area, affordable housing. The application with the state has gone in and it's been approved as well. We have a great affordable housing developer who's partnered with us. This year they're doing about 750 units across 8 different states. So they're very good at what they do. They'll bring a phenomenal project, much needed project to the community. They do it in a really, really good way. The project will be really, really good for the community, and looking forward to getting your feedback.
Are there any questions for the applicant at this time? So I believe that this hearing, just to confirm that we are just talking about the zone change. And then in a separate hearing, we'll get to see the site plan and talk more about the specifics related to what that building or what that would look like, but you kind of need to have a zoning change in place if we approve that first before you can move forward with the next hearing.
Yes, ma'am.
So any questions for you would be related more to the zoning change application itself as opposed to site plan ideas or things like that. Do any commissioners have any questions about the zone change? For the applicant?
Well, this Commissioner Kendall, I have some additional questions, but it has more to do with the benefits of affordable housing and how all that fits with state and local things, and I know that's zoning, but I'd sort of like to know the answers to my questions before I approve or disapprove the zoning, so that's something that I would meet with you later.
No, so I think, understand you have some questions. Of those questions, can the applicant answer any of those?
Possibly, but
Okay,
it's not strictly zoning, it has to
Okay.
do with the benefits of affordable housing.
okay, so, as you proceed through the hearing, we get to the component of the deliberation, I can answer your questions at that time,
Or he can,
or he can answer them now.
okay.
Yeah.
That's
I
great.
don't know your question, so you can either answer ones that you can answer now, or we can, discuss it later in the hearing.
If that's fine, if we want to do it now, or we can go do it at a time, if you want to go down, the proper.
Yeah, I feel like the questions that you're asking may be appropriate for the deliberation portion. I'm not sure that they're applicant related questions. So we can make sure we cover those in our deliberation section, and if we need to ask the applicant at that point for any clarification, we can do that. Perfect. Okay. Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Okay, so next on, we will move on to proponent testimony. In this section, anyone who is against the proposal or may think that they're against the proposal, this is your time to talk. We don't have a lot of people in the audience, but we usually limit.
Chair, I want to clarify,
Mhm.
it's the
Oh,
proponent,
sorry.
so it's people for and
Yes.
support of it. Yeah.
Pro and support. Okay, so if anyone is in
Support.
support, thank you. My thesaurus in my brain is not working tonight. If you would like to come forward and state your name in the microphone, do we have any proponent testimony? Do we have any online? Okay. Do we have any neutral testimony, people who may just have general questions or just want to state something in the record?
Yeah.
Anyone online who's neutral? Okay, we'll move on to the opponent. So people who may have questions or may feel like they are opposed to this movement. If you want to come forward and state your name, please make sure that your comments say in relation to the zoning change and the application itself.
Is going on. My name is Norm McDonald. I live at 305 Northeast Hillcrest, just to the east of the proposed building. I have some concerns. Can we get the map? Can we see the map? Thank you. The Chinook Place memory care that's in the movie is going to be surrounded on two sides by up to 72 buildings and a lot of traffic and a lot of noise, and I don't feel like that is the correct place for this piece of property. And it's also moving, I hesitate to say encroaching, but it is somewhat on a developed, long time, single family neighborhood. I have some other questions that might not pertain to this, but I would hope I could get some answers concerning the monetary aspects of it. Anyway, I just don't believe that that is the best place. I know you're short on part 2 ground or whatever, but that should have been addressed when this proposal came before the county, I believe, or the city. So with that, I'm open to questions if anybody wants to ask me a question.
And no, I thank you for your testimony, and it's important that people who live by come by and talk with us, so thank you for coming forward today.
All right, thank you.
Is Mr. McDonald? How long have you lived there?
I moved there. I moved there about 3 years ago because my son lived just down the street in a cul-de-sac, and he passed away from stage 4 cancer, and we moved there to be closer to him.
I have a question for you.
I'm sorry.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
Your objection is the density of the development, that there'll be 72 units. And that they're not, and that you mentioned that the neighborhood around there has been mostly single family dwellings. So that's your biggest objection, is that there's just it's too dense.
Not my biggest one. It's too hard. My aunt, 90 years old, lives in memory care and assisted living.
At Chinook there,
Yeah.
okay.
It's quiet, and I believe that we need to support as safe and quiet neighborhood as we can for people in that property. They've lived here all their lives, and now they're being squashed into a very small area. And cars, whatever noises come from a 72 unit property are going to be at best disturbing, I believe. I just don't think that that's the ideal place for that type of a property.
Chair Irvin, may I ask a question? Yeah.
I'm sorry.
May I ask you a question, sir? May I ask you a question, sir? Okay. You're concerned about the noise, and you just compared noise coming from development in the area, surrounding development compared
From
to.
the development.
So how much more noise would there be? Because we're required to make a decision based on a factual basis, not a. Well, I think there's gonna be more, or there's gonna be a little bit, we need to actually quantify it, so. What level of noise is going to be a problem?
Anything over what is in our neighborhood of established homes right now.
Thank you. Okay, next question. How does having medical offices and a hospital with a heliport compared to the noise from the apartments of the property to the direct east of this property.
I'm more concerned about 24-hour day noise. The hospital down the street, yes, a helicopter comes in, ambulance comes in. Cars, for the most part, come in on the south side of the hospital, not on the north side of the hospital. And we've already gotten a new development along Locks Road, and then they put the road through into our neighborhood, and there's more traffic there now, so it's just going to continue to compound the amount of noise and disturbance in the neighborhood.
Thank you for your response.
I think we're done now. Okay, is there another person who would like to come forward?
I pretty much agree with what he said.
Okay, can you state your full name and your address, please?
Stephanie Cisna, 546 Northeast Begonia. So I'm within the 250 feet. Just barely, because I'm on the corner of Hillcrest. And when I first saw that there was going to be some development, I have a little background in design, architectural design. So I thought, oh, maybe like an apartment building, maybe 24 units. I was thinking maybe 2 stories. There are some apartment buildings in the neighborhood. I guess that comes under R1. And the single family comes under R3. So I probably wouldn't object to an apartment building that was 12 or 24 units, but when I heard it was 72 and possibly 3 stories, which for Madras is almost like a skyscraper, because we don't have tall buildings here, not even the hospital, not even the community college. Maybe there might be 3 over there. So it just seems to me that it's out of scale, and I'm also concerned about the density. If they're families, there are people coming and going, so that is traffic and it is noise. So I can't quantify it, but I just feel like it's too much, and I've talked to my neighbors and they agree.
Well, thank you for your comments. I do think it's important to note that the design standards for any residential R1, R2, R3 have specific ideas about setbacks and height requirements. With the idea that it wouldn't be a skyscraper within the development code, but I understand your concern about scale being important and the idea of more people coming in and out of your neighborhood. So thank you for your comments. Are there any other commissioner comments, questions for this person who's testifying? Okay, thank you. Is there another person in the audience? Don't worry. This is a normal part of our, the democratic process is to have these hearings and hear from people. We're all regular people too, who get nervous and mess up, so don't, okay, so just say what you need to say.
Mark Ingram, I live at 390 Northeast Hillcrest Street. I just don't like the idea. I'm good with what he said. I understand what she's explained, and I'm right there too. I just don't want the doggone apartment building in my neighborhood of R1. That's pretty much, I don't have a quantifiable fact of what decibels of noise is gonna be. I already know that I got 1,000 kids that come through for Halloween. I don't want another 1,000. It's just the quiet. We came here a year ago and it is beautiful. No noise, everybody is within that neighborhood. Hey, what can I do for you? How can I help you? But I didn't want to come up saying things. I don't really think that even if I don't, or we oppose it, I really don't think it's gonna matter. I think it's whatever's gonna happen is just gonna happen, and you have to deal with it. Is that correct?
Well, I think that's the whole reason why we have these commissions and we have the opportunity to talk.
But is 3 voices gonna make a difference? Is my,
I honestly don't know. And some of it is that we have to make the decision based upon, does the applicant meet the criteria of the land use decision? Because if we all had kind of a bias about
but
what types of people or,
it's nothing about who or what.
no,
We moved here with the understanding that it was an R1 and it was gonna completely be single family dwelling. That's why we moved to that area, in that area. Had I known that it was gonna change or we're gonna put this, what says that it doesn't change for something else down the road?
no, I understand what you're saying. I think part of our quandary as well is that when there are vacant lots in the city, the idea is that we have to infill them with something. And, you know, a year or two ago, when the new development on Laux came before us, we also had the opportunity to listen to people who were concerned about a new development going in there. And I think the struggle is that that's what cities do, is that they grow. And so our commission job is to kind of decide what meets criteria and doesn't meet criteria, because I think all of us moved to a small town because we like a small town. But on the other hand, every town does have to grow too, so we have to balance those. So I'm thankful that people come and I'm thankful that people come, and I wish that more people did come when we have these hearings. It is wonderful to hear the feedback, and ultimately we have to make a decision about whether or not it meets the criteria or not, and sometimes that means that we may leave like a little bit of the heart out of the decision, because whether or not it meets the criteria is how we have to make the decision, but it doesn't demean any of the conversations that you bring by testifying. So I appreciate that you came. Do we have anyone else in the audience? Okay, so now we can move on to applicant rebuttal testimony. So this is an opportunity for the applicant to go over anything that was said by people providing testimony today, or to clear up any questions that people had. Would you like to come forward and address anything? Nick, can you put the map back up? Thank you.
We would like you to just answer a specific question.
I think if you have anything, I think you got a general feeling for what some of the opponent testimony was. If you have anything, information to provide, I think that would be helpful.
Yeah, I think it's very difficult to take away with how they feel, right? And I don't think that that'll ever be changed from anything I could say. You know, when you look at the project and the much needed housing, and we're trying to take a piece of land and create the best value from it and get the most out of it to make that project financially feasible and to provide much needed housing. That's really, we need to get an upzone to really be able to make that happen. And so that's why we're asking for it, because we believe that although it may create noise or may be difficult for some of the existing environment, something will be developed there. We believe that bringing affordable housing, which is a very big need in Madras specifically as well, is a really good thing in the big picture.
Are there any other questions for him?
Yeah, how long have you owned the property?
We've owned the property now for probably about 3 or 4 years.
Okay. And if the zoning goes through, or the zoning changes, is approved, is there a subsidy or anything that you receive in building this project? As far as like any type of grants or, money that's available to help provide low income housing or?
It will be 100% subsidized by the state, so it will be a true affordable housing project. It will be a deed restricted 100% affordable housing project.
What is deed restricted?
Meaning that when the state comes in, so the application, Home First is a great partner. They work with the state. The application has been moved in, it gets approved, and then we're not allowed, the rents stay at 60% average median income of Madras. So if you qualify and you make 60% of the average median income, then you only ever pay 30% of your income towards rent.
Okay.
And it stays restricted like that. You'll never be able to raise rents above that average median income.
Have you built these type of projects before?
Home First has they're building 750 as we speak, our partners.
Okay.
And they've put 2,500 over the last 10 years.
Okay.
This is Commissioner Kendall. I have a question for you. So that's the restrictions for the apartment. Is there going to be dwellings where people can purchase, or is every unit going to be rental?
This is all a rental
All
project.
rental. Thank you.
Who manages it?
Yeah, who manages the actual building?
Yeah, it's the state.
We partner with a nonprofit that helps place families or tenants. And so Home First, being the expert in the affordable housing, works with a nonprofit that helps place them. And there's a community service center that's in there. So it's a good process.
Well, let me ask a clarifying question. So if there's a question about how one of the tenants is using their unit, who do they call? Is that your company? Is it Home First? Is it a third-party property management company? What is that? I think that's the question.
A third-party property management company that specializes in affordable housing.
And who would that be?
The company, there's two.
Are they local?
Yes, ma'am, just maybe it's the lights. So. There's two partners that work on it. There's the Central Latino Association, which is local. And then there's the Cornerstone Community Housing. Both of those are nonprofits. They help place the tenants and they help manage the property.
Great, thank you. Any other questions from the commissioners? Okay, thank you for coming forward. Okay, so now we get to, as a commission, decide if we are going to close the public hearing and deliberate towards a decision this evening, or if we are going to close the hearing and defer deliberation to a date and time certain. In that option, that means that whatever information we have was the information that we have to make a decision. Or option C, we can continue the public hearing to a date and time certain. So in all of those options, we have the opportunity to deliberate. It's just a matter of whether or not we deliberate this evening or at another date. So this motion that I'm looking for is trying to work towards a decision of whether or not we have enough information to close the public hearing, which means we have the information we need to make a decision. Or if we need to pursue one of the other options. If we are.
I also just wanted to clarify, so if you take action this evening, your action is going to be a recommendation to the city council, who will then hold a public hearing on the matter.
If we close the public hearing, does that mean we can't ask any more questions to the public?
It means you cannot obtain any additional information. In other words, the record is closed. So you're gonna make a decision based on the information in the record. You could ask the applicant to come back up and they would need to respond with factual information that's already in the record.
So it'd be more about clarifying with the city or the applicant questions that we may have. So if there is new information that you need to make a decision, we should not close the public hearing.
Okay, so I do have one question for staff. If we recommend to the city council this zone change, the adjacent property that's around, are they able to also change to R2? Since they are adjacent to,
Subject to city council approval
Council.
through planning commission, just as the applicant.
so same process, yeah.
The only other alternative would be a, what we call a legislative, change, which would be a, proposal driven by the city or staff to rezone land. This is a property specific request by an applicant, so that's why it's partially judicial. But if you were gonna make a broader policy decision, say, hey, we wanna rezone a bunch of land in this area from R1 to R2, that's a legislative decision. That's the only other way you can do it.
Well, I was thinking more along the lines of protecting the R1, the integrity of the R1 from being rezoned to R2. For the landowners or.
Yeah, it's on a property, it's just that it's based.
Yeah. Okay. And
I had a clarifying question. We were talking about hard data about noise. That was one of the concerns from the public. And then the testimony from the city was ODOT and the city was like, yeah, traffic will be fine. I live in that neighborhood. I don't remember any traffic studies being done. Any, car counters across the roads. So this is a small town. There's a lot of traffic on Oak that tries to turn left at that light, and you brought that up. They're also filtering down 16th now, and now it's connected to the other, I don't know what that street is. The residents of that neighborhood have real legit questions about like the impacts of all that additional traffic, and me included. And that's a dense project. That's a lot of additional bandwidth with cars, so. I would like to see more, like, what was the city's process for deciding the traffic wasn't gonna be an issue?
Good question. So when you propose a zone change like this, they are required to prepare a traffic impact analysis. And so a licensed traffic engineer is required to prepare that report. They work with the public works director. And if it affects a state highway, they also work with ODOT to scope their project geographically to make sure that they're considering the appropriate streets and intersections when they analyze the impact of the development on the transportation system.
So that was all done.
That is done, that is in the record. And so Mr. Bestman is their traffic engineer. ODOT and our public works director, who is also a licensed engineer, reviewed it. It's not that they don't think it will affect it. It's that we do not have a solution. And therefore cannot identify either an improvement or a proportional fee of that solution for the developer to pay.
So we're gonna let the problem get created, but have no solution.
Well, yeah, I would also say this isn't more of an ODOT problem. We as a community, while we would like ODOT to fix the North White intersection, unfortunately, we don't have the finances
I
to
think
fix
it's
it.
gonna impact the street with that level of development.
Well,
Cause what's gonna happen is it's gonna back up on Oak. And then they're gonna start going down all the roads around the hospital and finding different routes out. That's just how it's gonna be.
so the traffic analysis does account for queuing. That is the technical term, how much stacking or queuing occurs, and there is some queuing there, but I think one of the other things that this TIA is addressing or identifies is the connectivity or the street network that can be utilized. In other words, not only is there an option to use Oak and Highway 97 to go north, there's other roads that can be traveled to get to other places in the community. And so in the traffic engineering arena, we call that distribution of trips. So one of the things that engineers sometimes do is they'll just say, oh, all of my trips are gonna go on this street over here, when in fact they're gonna go on a different street to mask the impact of an intersection. In this case, there's lots of connectivity, so 12th, 16th, both connect to B Street. Was it 16th does connect into, or is it Hillcrest and will connect into Louds eventually? But I don't know that that's really within the area that trips will be distributed. So this is why the traffic engineer in both the city and ODOT concluded that while it may not be ideal, there's nothing that we can do to mitigate that.
Now, the proposed ingress and egress for this is on Oak, for this subject property.
It's
But I
driveway.
know we're past the wind. So any impact that I see is gonna be on Oak and then filtered out. It's, you know, then you've got multiple ways to disperse from Oak. Where the main impact is gonna be, I mean, if anything, you put a light there. Or something.
Yeah, again,
Again, we're going past, yeah.
so I think the challenging factor here is we need to make, I'm encouraging the planning commission to make a factual basis, decision on a factual basis here. And the factual basis here is the traffic impact analysis. And so I would caution the commission, say, well, I think this, what's in the record, I think is the coaching I would say to you, and defer to the licensed professionals that have looked at this. ODOT, they're not shy to show up at a hearing and tell you you've got a problem. They are not here tonight. So,
CET or any other proposed bus stops or anything? Was there any type of, I guess, reach to them to see if that could be used, or is there a bus stop near there?
actually, there is,
Okay,
but it's on A Street, on the south side of the hospital,
okay,
in between called, the public health building and the hospital there on A Street, and it's close to the Nordic intersection.
okay, so there's some access to public transportation.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
And that's part of the flex route that we have in the cities.
okay.
But Chair, I did have two comments for the commission to consider. These decisions are difficult when we're changing the zoning of land. I think what is important to consider is that the state of Oregon requires that we use our land efficiently within our urban growth boundary first. This is actually a fairly large tract of land near what technically is called the medical overlay or the medical hub of our community. There is intended to be a nucleus of activity here in traffic. I will go back to the mid-80s when actually it was the Bean Foundation who previously donated the land for the hospital in this area, proposed to the city that we establish a medical overlay zone. Because it was their vision that we wanted a hospital, we wanted medical clinics, and we wanted housing, all that stuff in that area. And so this is not by a happenstance. Our code today says for the medical overlay zone that apartments are allowed. So it's been on our books to have multifamily in this area for some time. It's just the city's development standards have changed over time as well.
Is the adjacent apartment building R2? That's
No, it's R1.
it is low income.
The Crooked River, that's not the
Well,
name of it.
Crooked River, Willow Creek.
Is it less dense? Is that why it's stayed on one?
I do not know. I've not measured the density of that development.
There's more than 24 units.
Well, one, I don't know. I don't recall how many units are on the property, and I don't know the size of the property offhand, so I therefore can't determine the density.
So River Willow Creek must have been built before the definition of R1, where it's 24 units no matter what size.
Yeah, that was established in 2022. So the Crooked River Willow Creek apartment complex, if that's in fact the name, I think it was permitted in the 90s.
Okay, so it doesn't. It was a different standard back then.
Yes, and I could not tell you what that is.
No, that's fine, you don't have
Yeah,
to,
yeah.
that's why it's R1, whatever it happens to be, okay.
And I think the other, when we talk about R1, I think you gotta go back and look at the history of the city zoning. So in 1975 was when we established the zoning map. We had one residential zone.
No, I
And
understand.
so,
If
so-
it's done at different periods, it's
Yeah,
gonna be under
Yeah.
different standard, but we're talking about today's 2025 standards. So River Willow Creek is R1, but it may or may not fit what is our R1 standard of this year. But it is apartments. Another thing I noticed about the map, and I would put this out to our public hearers, is there's a real diversity of, properties there. You have a church, you have the hospital nearby, you have, assisted living with Chinook, you have Cascade, you have that smaller, memory care. Can't remember the name, it's right next to it. And then you have single dwellings, you also have, the apartments back there, so there is a large variety in that area. It's, to your comments that it was all single, maybe maybe the majority is single family dwellings, but there are the apartments of River Willow, and then there's all these commercial, for lack of a better word, they're not the commercial definition, but they're businesses.
And that's correct, and the reason why that is because of the medical overlay zone, so that's a clarifying zone, so in R1 zone, you have the permitted uses, right? The medical overlay zone says, okay, you have all those permitted uses, but on top of that, we're gonna allow some others, and here's some other related developments.
So because of the medical overlay, that's why they have,
The dental
Cascade.
clinic, yes,
that's why they have Chinook, that's why they have the other assisted living. Is that why they are also, I don't know how churches fit into that, but there's quite a few businesses. You've got the dentist, Oak Street Dentist there. So you have a real variety in this area. I mean, it's like a catch-all. That's just my observation. So it's definitely not what I would call a quiet neighborhood in the sense of it's all just a family development. Like you have some developments that you go into them and they're all single family dwellings or they're apartments and homes. This has just so many businesses as well, and that might be, because of the medical overlay, that's just the way it worked out, so this is a hard one because it's got such a variety.
Can I ask a question of the applicant? We allowed to do that, right?
Yes.
Did you choose this spot because of the medical overlay for that type of housing, like? Is that a focus of some of the people here involved, right there?
Yeah.
Dirk, you wanna come up?
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult to predict who's gonna come and use the property, but we thought the location was good, and it's very difficult to find a 3.5 acre piece of property centralized there, right? And so we believe in the area, believe in the growth, and it's hard to predict whether or not people who are working at the hospital are going to use it, but it's definitely, we're looking at that, and so
Or the access to
it is, but it's difficult to say.
Thanks.
Are there any other questions to go on? Are we ready to decide about closing the hearing, not closing the hearing? Options A, B, or C?
Suggest we close the hearing, make the recommendations.
Okay, so we have a motion to close the hearing now and deliberate towards the decision this evening. Do I have a second?
It's that.
Thank you.
All right, all those in favor, this is just to close the public hearing. And then we can deliberate some more. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Okay, so now we are in the deliberation zone. I guess, what are you thinking, Commissioner Reynolds?
I think honestly, you are increasing. You're able to put a maximum number of people in a space and have the most impact on system that, you know, are already in place. And I know it sounds to everybody, they have access to medical, dental, everything's right there. You're just down the road from the highway, the access to the highway. And you're not having to build really new roads to provide it. The ingress and egress is off Oak. Oak is already a major collector, it's already built major collector standards, it's meant to be there. There's already public transit that's available in the area. That's, I mean, you're maximizing. It makes sense, you're maximizing the use for that land. And you're minimizing the actual, you're not having to build new roads and maintain new roads, you're not having, you know. Ambulance, medical, they're all right there, they're not, it's not like they have to expand where their coverage. And you're maximizing your utilization, you're getting the most bang for the buck, so. To me, it makes sense, I hear what the concern is from the citizens that are around, again. After it gets built, we'll see what the impact is, but I do believe that the impact will be. Kind of oblivious, it won't be noticed, I honestly see that as being the truth, it will not be noticed, but. We'll see.
Commissioner Barrett?
So. The way I'm looking at this is, as the city's pointed out, our job here is to weigh. The law and what the applicant's criteria is he has to meet in order to change the zoning. On a personal level, I know the traffic in that neighborhood is going to increase dramatically, there are going to be impacts. But at the same time, as a member of this community, I see the need for housing, I see. I'm a teacher at the high school, there are kids. There are homeless kids in our high school, they need affordable housing, and to get a project. To come to our community, even in my backyard, I think it's an important thing, and. We have to also follow what the zoning rules are, so. That's my thoughts.
Thank you, Commissioner Kendall, do you have any comments?
I have a question for Nick. You mentioned that there is state of Oregon regulations of how we use our land. And apartments are allowed in that overlay of medical. Is the state requirements that, like if we were to say we do not want that just because of the traffic impact, the noise impact or whatever, is that something that we would be going against state regulation? I mean, do we have criteria that says, okay, you had an opportunity, but you didn't take it? And so that didn't, by not taking it, you did not meet the state requirement, we're gonna slap you in the hand or worse.
Well, you're not gonna get slapped. No physical pain here.
No, I mean. as
Yeah,
far
I know
as
what you
the
get.
city- the
Yeah,
city.
I get you saying, yeah.
Is that something that we're going against the grain of the state requirements
So
by not?
I would, my response to that would be, first of all, this is given the area and the non-residential uses in the area, it's predominantly kind of medical
It's right.
hub. It is a significant piece of land that can be developed for residential. Statewide Planning Goal 14 urbanization is calling for us to use our land most efficiently, and often cases that is utilizing the existing infrastructure as much as possible. We have not gone into the goal, and I can't remember the statewide planning goal that considers land, air, water resources or environmental impacts. The amount of traffic that's going to be generated from this development, the net increase is not such that we have a compliance issue with that statewide planning goal. What I would also say is, if you make a decision to not approve this, we need to have a longer evening here and identify the factual basis for you to not
Well, that's what I'm
pass
asking.
this. And
I mean,
in so doing, I think, my recommendation to the commission is there's more information in the record that demonstrates compliance with the applicable criteria than otherwise. And so, you could make a recommendation to the city council to not approve this. We would want to know why, so the planning commission, pardon me, the city council could understand why you made that recommendation, and then they would evaluate it.
no, that was my question. I mean, we have regulations from the states that we have to comply with. We have regulations from the city that we have to look at. And just as our chairperson mentioned, I mean, we have to make decisions, not always from the point of my heart hurts for the people who were affected the most, just like any other that we have made. But growth is growth, and you have to fit in the legal criteria to say yay or nay. If we say yes, we have to say the legal criteria, we have met that. If we say no, we also have to have the legal criteria that meets that. And that's the part that makes sometimes the decisions here difficult.
Yeah, given your high pay, 0, you get to do that. You know, there is case laws in Oregon that says that you need to make land use decisions based on acknowledged law or plans that have been acknowledged. Our housing capacity analysis has been acknowledged by the Department of Land Conservation Development. And as I alluded to earlier, somewhat summarily, it identifies a need for more housing in our community.
Yeah, of course.
And one of the things it says, this is on page 45, the first bullet point at the top. It's under the section of decline in senior population. The Jefferson County forecast share of residents aged 60 years and older will account for 25% of its population in 2045. It's a 20-year analysis, compared to 27% in 2016 to 2020. It is reasonable to expect that the Madras senior population will decline consistent with regional trends. Declining number of seniors will result in demand for housing types specific to seniors, such as assisted living facilities or age-restricted developments. There's also a section here on, I couldn't believe it when I forgot about this. Millennials, Generation Z will continue to form households and make a variety of housing choices. the short story here is the affordability we need, affordable housing we need in our community is for all income levels. It is for individuals who are young, those who are a working class. It's also for our seniors.
Yeah, we saw the analysis in the last meeting that we had.
And so when you look at this analysis and the numbers in here. If the city were to make a decision to not approve this. We're gonna have a difficult time explaining why we need a decision that's consistent with our forecast.
That answers my question. I mean, we have certain things that we have to meet, and to say yes, we have to justify it based on the criteria that the state and county puts. To say no, we have to also have that, and unfortunately, those criteria don't have a lot of heartbeats in them. Unfortunately.
So this is just the zoning change to R2. Will the development's final plan come before this commission, or will it go to this council? Because I'm so new to this commission, I don't know.
No, one great question, and I did want to clarify that, it was on my list to verify. The site plan is actually an administrative decision, so I will be reviewing that, okay, making that decision. And as part of the 2022 code amendments we did for the middle housing, we adopted the clear and objective standards for needed housing. So we will be reviewing it with the clear and objective standards that the prior planning commission, city council passed. That is a public record, so if any member of the public would like to see those plans, they just need to contact City Hall, we can make the arrangement. So.
Thank you. I appreciate everyone's thoughtful consideration this evening. I think that this is an important change that's before us. I personally think you were getting at, Commissioner Reynolds, using a piece of property that's within current infrastructure that uses existing roads. And it is a flag property in that it fronts a more commercial mixed use district, and the back of it does butt up to a more residential zone. But that is similar to the other properties in that area as well. One question for you, Nick, is in the R2 zone.
Yeah.
Besides being able to build more dense units, are there any other changes in the R2 zone from R1?
No,
Okay,
because, well, to clarify, the development standards for apartments are the same across the board. Except in the R1 zone, it's a 24 unit maximum with a maximum of 4 units per building.
okay. So the design standards that you're talking about relate to setbacks, like I was referring to earlier, the kind of that you can't just have a giant facade of one. I think we have in our design standards something that I think called the cupcake.
Well, the wedding cake, yes. The tiered approach,
Yeah.
yes, we have a technical term for that, we call it side yard setback plane, which is to make sure that you don't have a very, very tall building right next to a single story building, right? That does exist, but I think it's important to reiterate that when we develop the middle housing code standards, it was my recommendation to the city council and the planning commission that we adopt design standards that are thoughtful, appropriate, practical, and meaningful. And so what I often said was, we're not creating design standards that will create, Disneyland and Candyland. Like, this isn't some set of design standards that have overly burdensome requirements. We want thoughtful development that has amenities that allows our residents to be successful, to seek the rest that they need in their home and have their amenities. And when we came down to it, there were some very basic architectural standards. Of course, parking, trash enclosures. And the open space requirements for recreational amenities. And that's what we have. I think that's what you, Chair, are trying to articulate, and I would say, I think we got a lot of those standards correct. But as you administer those standards, you find areas where maybe they need to be adjusted because maybe there's a shortcoming or different aspect, a different outcome than intended. So I do feel very strongly that the city does have codes to ensure that the site design and the architecture, the function of the property for apartments will be good not only for the residents, but the community as well. And when I say community, because we in 2000 approved a 150 some unit apartment development, the R apartments, and we have very poor recreational amenities. And guess what? Those amenities aren't there yet. They will be there soon. And until they're there, there's now a burden upon the city's public park system in that area that wasn't designed for 150 more units. We now have those standards there. So I do feel that I have confidence that our design standards will deliver a development that is appropriate.
This is Commissioner Kendall, and I have a question regarding, you're talking about the design standards and the different codes. We're not talking about the R1, R2 right now. In our design standard code, does that accommodate parking in the development that would accommodate 2 cars per unit? Because most people have 2 cars, you have husband, wife, children. And so usually one spouse has one car and the other has the other. So if, I mean, 3 acres is big, but 72 units is also a fair amount. Is there parking in there for at least 2 cars per unit, which would be
Yeah.
144 parking spots.
So again, you did note that we're not reviewing the site plan at this time, but the current code requirement is 1 space
It has that.
per
Oh, 1 space.
1 space per dwelling.
Okay.
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 What
That's what I need.
we find is, the developer knows how much parking they need, and they oftentimes are building more parking than the code requires. Because they know the very facts, or that it's likely that their residents are gonna be, have the situation you just articulated.
I mean, that seems like that takes up a lot of room. Even if you're accommodated. I know, okay, so it's 1, our code is 1 per unit. And most people have at least 2 cars per unit. And that's 144 spaces. Is there room for that? And then all the rest of the setbacks and so on and so forth?
You can have the applicant answer, but candidly, it's not part of the decision this evening. If you want, I can answer that offline. I think the answer is yes. I can show you their
And I
plans.
feel like that's also getting into the same kind of guideline is it going to be noisy or that type of thing, because we don't know for sure that everyone's going to have 2 vehicles. It does seem like you are supposing something instead of knowing something. So if the applicant would like to speak at all about parking, I think that.
No,
is
that's
relevant.
fine. I just needed to know mainly what our code was, and it's 1 per unit, not 2. Okay, that's pretty well answered. Thank you.
But it's about 1.4 space.
So for the record, the applicant just stated that it would be about 1.4 spots per unit is what they average. Thank you. Do we have any other questions from the commissioners? Okay, so now is the point in the evening where we can have a motion to move forward. I believe, Nick, do you have the sample motion wording?
Believe so, give us a second. And for the members of the the audience here, we provide a staff recommendation for the motion, the planning commission can choose to use that or not.
So I guess I'll make a motion that we recommend to city council to approve the zone change CC 25-2 for stone of the permits.
Is there a second? I'll make the second. We have a motion on the floor. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
All right, motion carries. Applicant is approved.
Well, you passed the motion, it will go to the city council.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
City council.
Yeah.
Um,
Before maybe the audience leaves, the city council hearing is on August 26th.
Yes.
5:30 p.m.
so if you would like to attend the city council meeting, they are the ones who actually do the formal approval. We review more of the technical documents and then send it on to the city for final approval, but they will have a comment period as well if you would like to attend that meeting. Yes. And you can always talk with someone from the planning commission in between the meetings to gather more information and to also make sure that you have what you would need to point to those. Yep. Thank you for coming. Okay, so next on our agenda, we have a regular agenda. Do we have any items? Thank you.
Next meeting is the 20th, another public hearing. Yes.
Our next planning commission hearing is on August 20th.
No. That is my birthday.
It's not possible to have two.
No.
Wheeler States.
Well, we can see if we can get a quorum, or
Yeah.
do you know what the type, what we may be discussing?
Oh, we have another infill, well, how big is it? 10 acres?
Over,
Yeah, over 10 acre
10 acres.
infill development.
yes.
Could you,
Yes.
could you call in? You don't
No,
want to
maybe
be-
on boat.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
I'll make the meeting. That would be so fun. So why don't we see if we can get a quorum,
Yeah.
that you probably have,
I'll send out an email.
okay.
Yeah.
And you can also present your comments ahead of time
Okay.
too.
Just submit those to staff. If you would.
Huh?
If you'd like to provide written comments on the proposal,
But it's quasi judicial, right?
yeah,
Am I allowed to read the packet?
yes,
Yeah.
just like anyone else, you can submit comments.
It's on our website.
You can read the packet and submit your questions today, or comments. Okay, anything else?
No, I appreciate the discussion this evening. Can't always anticipate which decisions are going to be controversial or not, and I think tonight was a good example of where one, I think Chair Irvin, I want to compliment you and attempting to make our hearing a little more at ease and enable the public to participate. I picked up on that, so I nice job on that. I think the challenge we have is the city is bound to make a decision based on the criteria, right? And this is the challenge of planning in Oregon, unless you have abundant of financial resources to hire the experts yourself. Oftentimes the concern for some of the subjective aspects of it aren't as don't have the same influence as some of the quantifiable facts of a study, a traffic study, an engineer's report, things like that. And so I know some of the residents were not so happy, but on the other hand, if you make a decision that has based on subjective information, you have another challenge, and that is your decision can be appealed. Right, so both are challenging in different ways, and so I'm just acknowledging that I saw you wrestle with that, and that actually I think is a good thing for a planning commission, because you listened, you synthesized, you struggled through what that decision needed to be, and you voted on it, and that is why we have a representative commission. The city council's appointed you to this position because it's not a one-person job. As a director, we want to represent the body of our community, and it's not to be one person, so, thank you for, volunteering your time this evening, making a decision for our community. I know the city council, takes your decisions very seriously. And I expect there will be some testimony at the city council. Nice work.
Well, thank you to everyone, for good discussion and good thoughts. And Nick too, I think thank you for the training. Because I think that was helpful to just reiterate kind of how to make the committee or the commission meeting feel a little more close to people who are feeling a little iffy about talking or being here. So thank you.
Yes.
All right, anything else?
Unless the commissioners have something. Pardon.
Do you have anything?
I must have been on vacation when you guys did training.
Yes, it was so phenomenal. Although I am a little biased.
Just listen to him, it's the minute in Bethany, and then, yeah.
Depending on your perspective, it's either really great or it's really boring.
Maybe next year. I just want to make just a personal comment that, even though emotionally, you know, I see where they're coming from and I understand that. When I took this position, I agreed to make the decisions based on those hard choices that whatever the facts were, the law was what the state requires. That's why I asked about that. You know, so as a commissioner, I will continue to make those decisions, but it doesn't mean that I won't have to subject myself either.
Oh, and I think
Because I can sense the struggle, even within myself, but, because I mean, as I mentioned, the variety in the map. I mean, it's like, that is not probably, that would not be my first choice to say, I want a peaceful, quiet place. You're in the middle of the hub of all the medical and all the different things, so. Further out, yes, it's a little bit, but in
There's a
here,
going from her. So it's.
Yeah, it's already there.
yeah,
And that was a good thing.
it is.
They were upset. They're like, well, is there any other R2 zone you can put in? So you just don't want it in your backyard. That was it. It's like, but it makes sense to put there as far as the burden on infrastructure. It lessens the burden. We don't have the money to build new roads and add more coverage for EMS and fire, all that stuff.
But stop signs could go in if they're doing developments, at least to slow traffic down, so that they're not blowing down residential streets doing 50.
Well, and to that
Going
point,
down B Street at 70, which I see regularly, and no police patrol it, so.
yeah, so, I'll also point out that the planning commission also got to decide the public health building, remember the conditional use permit on that? You know, two of our commissioners do, and part of the recommendation to the public works director at that time was to put in stop signs at 8 and 16. Right,
And
so what warranted we do?
why hasn't it happened then?
Oh, that's funny.
Oh, it has.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
but it used to just be two-way.
That's a four-way stop. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, well, maybe we
If
could.
Clifford would slow down, he'd notice that it's
How about 4 ways at B and 16? To slow the traffic on
won't
the.
be easy. That probably won't happen.
Or
but-
sidewalk.
But you're also on the urban forestry commission, you can bring that up.
Even with the new apartment, you would think that that's another 200 feet.
But also making suggestions to lower the speed there or add another speed bump at some point on that road, because people do go slower as they go down the hill, because there's that speed bump at the bottom of the hill.
Yeah, you know, one of the problems with Oak Street is it feels like one of the widest streets we have
Yeah.
And, you know, if you look at how to calm traffic. Some of the best ways to calm traffic is really narrow down or pinch that street, narrow down the section. The residents don't like it, they'll complain, they're like, it feels too tight, and oh, yeah, that's right, and you're slowing down. And so in the future, that's probably things that we're going to be doing. You'll notice that at the corner of 12th and Oak, when the hospital did its major expansion, we required them to put in the curb ramps, which have the bulb outs. There's a reason for that, so you can see them more, so you see that pedestrian crossing and slow down more. All those are very subtle traffic calming devices
What
that,
about just bumper striping? There's no striping, right, on Oak?
yeah,
Yeah.
there's a
just
reason for
bumper
that.
striping.
Yeah, well, so they redid that last year, they did the crack seal,
Yeah,
and there was a problem with contractors was to strike that. So
okay, so
Yeah.
that's
It's-
just,
that's a temporary thing. I think it's getting addressed this year.
okay.
They did have a valid point when you put that many apartments right behind Chinook. I worked at Chinook, so I know what that building is made out of. It's a very old building. Well, not super old, built in the seventies or something like that. So it's got pretty thin walls.
But then I think about the guy who was here when we're doing the new development on Louds. Because his backyard was gonna touch that new neighborhood and that's gonna be a common thing when you're building a new kind of infill that's gonna touch somebody else, and so you can't, noise can't be the only factor. If it meets all the other standards.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. No, this is just a subjective comment. I understand and that building and it may. But
And I do appreciate, Nick, that you mentioned too, I think when people think apartments for low income, you think, I mean, in my head, I'm thinking skateboarders, people with crappy cars. I forget that seniors, there's a lot of seniors who meet that criteria. And in that area, that's probably more likely who would be moving in there. I mean, I guess in my head, I have to get over what I think of when I think of apartment complexes, because the truth is that they do serve a variety of people in different ages and different incomes. So I appreciate that you brought in specifically the idea that it could also be seniors.
Yeah, and you know, those millennials and Gen Zers, you know, they need to leave mom and dad's place. They need affordable housing.
Basement.
Yeah. You know, and I mean that seriously to the, and the reason for that is, Chair, I think your comment is spot on, and so we all have our own bias, as your word this evening, or preconceived notions of what it may be. You know, I would just encourage you, go over to, the senior housing development next to the Jefferson County Community Center, 24 units went in there. Those are all seniors.
Yeah. Great. And there's no impact, it's great. They're just outside smoking all the time, it's great.
Well, I would also say outside of seniors too,
Yeah.
the rents and mortgages in this town do not match how much a lot of people make here.
Oh.
And so giving opportunities for young families to live in our town, or I mean. Even some first-year teachers don't make a ton of money, they might qualify for that.
that's.
So, I mean, it is. 60%, that's not technically super low income though, right? That's not like
I
federal.
think it was 30% of rent if they were 60% below,
Well, the federal standard, 30% of your household income needs to go towards housing,
30% of your house.
including
Yeah, that could
utilities.
be service workers in our community.
Oh, there's a lot of
With kids.
people
It's the person bagging your groceries, it's the
Yeah.
person at the medical clinic helping you, it's, you know, the person at the school who's taking care of your child and making sure they get out of the bus every day and back home. And these are all the people in our community that really do matter, that we depend upon every day. It's just that they don't happen to earn an income like others.
No, that's a different issue.
Now, I got in my packet a copy of the possible layout. It's not horrible. I mean,
It also doesn't only, the units themselves don't butt up against the lots, it's more of the parking, like the grass area.
right.
They
the
were,
right area.
they thought this through.
Yeah.
Butts up against
Most of
Chinook.
it.
So there's quite a little gap.
But
This
most
is
of
two
these
minutes, right?
units are next to the other apartments.
Oh, in the back.
So like Sandwich closer to the
Clubhouse.
right?
Yeah, and then.
Those are the other apartments on that side, right?
Turn around.
Can you?
Yeah.
I can rotate it.
Marvel, 36.
3,
2 story?
3 stories,
3.
no elevator?
No stairs. They have a dog park.
Don't
That's
we
nice.
have to have
And
elevators?
they move all their stuff up to that 3rd floor and have a heart attack, the hospital's right there.
No, don't, isn't it required by
It's
law?
downhill.
Oh, we don't have to have an elevator for those who maybe are wheelchairs or
Well,
can't.
It'll be on the ground floor.
well, time out. Two things. One, building code determines whether you need an elevator or not.
Okay,
Secondly,
and our building code is not required for a 3-story.
apparently not. It's not my area of expertise, but
Okay.
the other thing I'll point out is that when you receive state funding for these affordable housing units, they're built
Yeah.
to a standard that is ADA compliant. And I'll tell you, without that subsidy, the private sector doesn't build and design those units accordingly.
Well,
And
but it is state. He said it was 100% state, step funded.
they are going to be built to the higher.
To
standard.
ADA. Okay, yeah, because it was 100% subsidized by the state.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
So
But
it
it's-
will get built, is that what you're saying?
well,
It's subject to funding from the legislature or from,
is 3 stories part of our code?
yes.
Wait, is ODOT gonna fix their road or highway? Is that still on track,
There's an emergency legislative session later this month, I understand. But I'm hopeful, but I'm also not optimistic.
Well, yeah, because they're pulling all these projects to get funding to. Keep some staff on, that's what I'm hearing.
It's not as serious. Thank you, Chair Levine.
I heard
All
that.
right, let's go ahead and adjourn the meeting at 8:32.